every single day, every weekend, 24/7. It does not matter.
Tell them what breaking a black barrier mean, man. What they
Come on,
look
man.
like,
What is
man?
black, man?
What is black?
Copper Color Productions, man.
Huh?
The Copper Color King, King Cash, Moors and Money, man. Let's get it.
Black King, stand up for understand what black is. It's the essence, it's the culture. We've been on this earth, you heard? The Bronx was called for Apache. Huh? The Bronx was called for Apache, man. Oh, last breed, bro. We bringing it back, last breed.
Really forever flying in this bitch, man. For the ancestors, baby. For all the ancestors out there, baby.
Oh man, that was good. What's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Copper Color King, we back in the building, man. King Willow, we back in the building. With some more dope content, man. Some more information. Some more good research. That's what I like to call it, good research. I don't like to feel like I'm ever leaving out any details when I'm going through my research, right? So every time I come across something that I consider a point of interest, I always make sure that I mark it down as something that I have to return to later. this was one of those things right here, right? The origins of the magnetic compass. As a person that has always been interested in adventure and traveling and knowing how to get to certain places without even using GPS, like how our ancestors did, or rather I should say like our parents, mothers, fathers, aunties, uncles. Like I always wondered, like, yo, how my pops knew how to get to certain places without using a GPS. It just always used to dawn on me, like, yo, like, what it do, Chicken Stew, man? I hit y'all up on Instagram, man. Check y'all DM, man. I ain't know y'all had some folks over on 180th. We real close. We gotta lock in. But yeah, I used to ask my pops all the time, like, yo, how you get to certain places without knowing or without using the GPS, without using something to help you find the location. Right? And he just used to know, for years of traveling, going through the same routes over and over and over again. It created like a mental imprint, like a blueprint in his head for when he traveled. Then it really used to dawn on me. Like I used to use compasses. Or I used to use a compass when I was little. When I was outside playing in the park and stuff like that. Just trying to understand how does it work. And every time I would shift directions or shift my movements, I would see, the compass change direction. So that's how I would know and understand what north, south, east, and west was. On top of that, living in New York, we live based off a grid system. The city is built on a grid system. So, you going more north as you go towards like the Bronx and Mount Vernon and Yonkers, Westchester County, Syracuse, Buffalo. You going north when you're going in that direction. And obviously, we know you're going south because south of New York, we call it down south. Right? And then we know we out east. So that's the East Coast, right? Those are just things that just let us know, right? We built off a grid, right? Majority of the world is built off a grid, especially America, right? The countries, right? The pyramids, they align on a north, south, east, west axis. But right, one thing that I ask, right, is what is the origins of all this stuff, right? We live on such a vast plateau of earth, like of ground. If we include the water, the stretch of land is enormous, right? Because there's still land underwater, right? The stretch of land is enormous. So I just always ask, like, yo, where do these things come from? Or like, what's the origins of a compass? How did people first learn how to tell directions, like which way to go? Right? I'm pretty sure at some point in time they was outside like, which way do we go? Which way do we go? Right? But I would have never even guessed or began to think that there was a mineral out there in the world that folks used thousands of years ago to help them migrate, understand the sense of direction. It's called lodestone. That's what they call it. Lodestone. Right? A new discovery for me. Man, I'll tell y'all right now. I would never ever consider myself the smartest person on earth. I would never consider myself a genius. Yeah. It's a great question. I would never consider myself the Albert Einstein, but I'm pretty damn smart. I know some stuff about some stuff. But this lodestone stuff, man, it caught me off guard because I never knew or even began to think that there was a mineral out there that folks used. Right? This is what it looks like. This is lodestone. Right? Lodestone is a mix of iron oxide, aluminum, and titanium. Right? 3 different minerals that you could find in the earth's surface or in the earth's crescent or crust, the crust of the earth, like the bread crust of the earth. Right now as we speak, you could dig this stuff up right now as we speak. As a matter of fact, it's all around us. You know, that's why they say grounding is extremely important, right? Grounding, because it helps us connect to the energy within, right? It helps us connect to the magnetic energies within the earth, right? They call it earthing. That's right. When you stand on the earth or have contact with the product that's grounded into the earth, it connects your body to the natural electric charge of the earth, transferring electrons into your body. All right. It's because the earth has minerals inside of it that has stuff like this, like lodestone, right? So when I found out about it, man, I was mind blown. Because it's like, oh wow, like no wonder why grounding is so important, right? But then it dawned on me, right? I'm like, okay, well, if this is a mineral that was used in prehistoric times to understand the sense of direction, then what group of people were the first group of people to introduce this into the average societies? Right, then we started getting into the milk and cookies, right? Started getting into the real details, right? The real facts behind it all, right? How did the tribes or the people of the old days understand or have a sense of direction and geography? How did they map out things, right? Was it because of this lodestone? I got a clip, right? You know, per usual, I always got a clip to play. I'm gonna play this clip. Y'all can let me know if y'all hear it too. I'm not sure if it's too loud, but we're gonna play it as loud as we possibly can. And it's just understanding how in prehistoric times how people understood geography. Now let's check it out. You know, I'm a man of my word, so I'm gonna pull this bad boy up. Let's get into it. Right, as y'all can see, we got that grounding facts up there. Let's check this out.
From 19 ancient Egyptian maps, some dating back to 300 BCE, and possibly included knowledge from the legendary library of Alexandria. The accuracy and detail of the Piri race map suggests that ancient civilizations might have known much more about the world's geography than previously thought, adding another layer of mystery to the story of ancient cross-continental connections. This extraordinary map accurately depicts regions like West Africa, Western Europe up to France, and islands such as Cape Verde, Madeira, the Canary Islands, and the Azores. But the real showstopper? It presents South America with stunning precision, detailing the Andes Mountains and the Amazon River's path with an accuracy that wouldn't be matched by Europeans until centuries later. Interestingly, the map's precision in terms of latitude and longitude suggests that our ancestors had a sophisticated understanding of geography and navigation, at least since the construction of the Great Pyramid about 4,500 years ago. This was all long before Europeans managed to map the Andes or accurately trace the Amazon River in the 18th century. Despite Columbus's voyages, this map is fundamentally Egyptian in origin, showing a deep familiarity with South America nearly 900 years after initial contacts with the Olmecs. These contacts between Africa and the Americas didn't just exchange goods. They deeply influenced the cultures and civilizations of the New World. This cross-continental exchange wasn't limited to geography and architecture. Linguistic parallels like the words Yaru, Yaro, and Ra hint at shared knowledge or common influences between ancient Egypt and America. Indian historian R.A. Jairus-Boy points out more examples, like the words for crocodile and incense, showcasing a deeper, more nuanced connection than previously thought. The Egyptians, known for their monumental architecture, including the use of unique concrete blocks for building, might have shared this advanced technology with their Amerindian counterparts. This ancient globalization hints at a world far more interconnected than we've imagined, with knowledge and ideas flowing freely across oceans and continents long before the age of exploration. Imagine visiting the ancient pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico and finding that the Pyramid of the Sun shares almost the same dimensions as the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It's a fascinating connection that makes you wonder about the ancient world. Both pyramids are nearly identical in size, suggesting a remarkable parallel between these two great civilizations. Then there's the Mayan calendar, remarkably similar to the ancient Egyptian calendar. Both civilizations used a 360-day year, with an extra 5 days added for celebrations, rounding out to a full 365 days. Writing a cornerstone of civilization.
That's another thing I want to talk about too at some point. And I know that was probably really low. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's the highest I was able to get the video to play. Now, one thing I will say, right? One thing I will say is, we know already, based off what we learned in history, that whatever's over there in the Eastern world, we had the same stuff busting over here in America. We had the same things busting over here in America, right? So the brother said, right? The brother said, and this is why it's important, y'all. It's important. This is why the video was important. The brother said the pyramids in Teotihuacan and in Mexico and the mounds in North America share the same characteristics as the Great Pyramid of Giza. He said before European contact, the people in the Americas and ancient Egyptians had a clear and precise understanding of geography, stating that the maps that they created showed a fine and clear perception of what the countries we see today look like. The shorelines, you know, the mountain ranges, multiple different things. But going into the pyramids sharing the same resemblance thing, right? Like I said, we understand that the Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned with the north, south, east, west axis, right? Same thing as the Temple of the Sun in North America. I mean, in the Americas, not North America, in the Americas. Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is also aligned with the sun. A solar observatory, a sacrifice center, right? Also, in addition to that, and you guys need to go follow me on TikTok, even in Arizona, right? In Arizona, I discovered this myself when I went out there. They got,
Look at these.
oh, that's not the clip, right? Tablets with inscriptions on it that are representations of the solar
Could these be tablets?
equinox, right? Those are sun tablets.
Could these be inscripted?
These are sun tablets. When I was in Phoenix, we read the description behind it, right? It's aligned with the sun. When the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, it rises where these tablets were. And it's so crazy because I watched it happen myself. I watched it happen myself. So, like I said, understanding that the pyramids here in America and in Egypt have the same characteristics. They align with the north, south, east, west axis, right? So we know, even from a theory like that, that these temples and these pyramids generate energy. Energy, because according to a compass, it uses energy to help direct, right? You could get to the center of an energy source using a compass. We learned that from Stranger Things. Whoever watched the Stranger Things series, you see with the little nerd boy, in order to find the gates, right? These real life gates, stargates, right? I'm just saying, these real life gates, right? That energy sources, right? That if we were to follow mythology, take us to different dimensions and different realms, right? Like the brother Jamal Rashad used to say, right? You could walk through Egypt and get to America. Get to Africa. You could walk through Egypt and get to Africa. That's what he used to say, right? But then it just brings me back to this understanding, right? This question. Lodestone and its uses. For people to migrate and travel, did they use the lodestone to find these temples, right? That helped them find a sense of direction. Like where the temples, the endpoints is what I'm saying. Like when they were migrating, were these temples the locations that they were trying to get to, and were they using these lodestone compasses to help them travel? Right? Understanding history of the compass. The compass is a magnetometer used for navigation and orientation that shows direction in regards to the geographical cardinal points. The structure of a compass consists of a compass rose, which displays the four main directions on it: east, south, west, and north. The angle increases in clockwise position. North corresponds to 0, east is 90, south is 180, and west is 270. The history of the compass started more than 2,000 years ago during the Han Dynasty, right? This is what history tells us. History tells us that the use of the compass originated in China. There, we're going to debunk that, though. We're going to talk about it. We're going to debunk that. But in some way, shape, or form, we're going to make a lot of things make sense. Right? So it says it was used more than 2,000 years ago in the Han Dynasty. The first compasses were made of lodestone, a naturally magnetized stone of iron. In the Han Dynasty, China, it was called the south-pointing fish and was used for land navigation by the mid-11th century during the Song Dynasty. Long time ago. These is a long time ago, right? These dynasties existed a long time ago. China, right? They say China has the oldest history, right? They have the oldest history because they predate Christ, Muhammad, and the Torah. They predate all of those things, right? But where did China get their history from? Let's talk about it. We gotta really talk about it, right? Where did China's history come from? Because let's get this straight. Let's get one thing straight. We understand and learn that these folks from this part of the land, they're invaders. Like all these folks is invaders. This is what history tells us. They tell us that even the Asiatic, right? The Siberians, those people, they're invaders, right? Every plot of land they go to, they steal and invade. This is my theory. So these dudes, they invaders. So where did they get their history from? Because everything has an origin. Everything has an origin. Bruce Lee, what up, my brother? What it do, chicken stew? Question: since we're energy carbon-based beings and we carry the same electric charge of the earth, wouldn't we be built in compasses? That is a good question. This is why I mentioned the grounding, right? Why grounding is important. Right? Human beings, as soon as that we take our socks off, and then we walk with the earth, right? We create that electromagnetic connection, right? The electrons, they flow through our body using the earth's surface, because what's in the earth's surface are things like lodestone. Maybe there's a tiny bit of lodestone in our bodies. So that's a good question, sis. That's a good question. That's a good question. But yeah, let's continue. It was called, where we at? Shun Kuo provided the first explicit description of a magnetized needle in 1088, and Zhu Yu mentions its uses in maritime navigation in the text Ping Zhu Table Talks, dated 11/11/1117. Later compasses were made of iron needles, magnetized by striking them with the lodestone. Magnetized needles and compasses were first described in medieval Europe by the English theologian Alexander Neckham. The first literary description of a compass in Western Europe was recorded around 1190 and in the Islamic world in 1232. Dry compasses began appearing around 1269 in medieval Europe and 1300 in the medieval Islamic world. This was replaced in the early 20th century by the liquid filled magnetic compass. Right? Navigation prior to the compass. This is what we got to understand. Before the introduction of a compass, geographical position and direction at sea were primarily determined by the sighting of landmarks, supplemented with the observation of the position of celestial bodies. So basically, to understand geography back in the days, when they saw land, that was it, right? We marked it mentally. I'm guessing this is how they put it on the map. They see land from their starting point, they draw it on the map, and they understand where they were, pretty much. They understood where they were. So there was no map, there was no compasses or anything like that at this time. Other techniques included sampling mud from the sea floor in China, analyzing the flight paths of birds, and observing wind, sea debris, and sea state, Polynesia, and elsewhere. Right, this is what they was doing over there in China. This is what they saying. Like, they were analyzing flight paths, things that we could do today, right? Migration patterns of the birds. That's also how they understood weather, right? And omens, bad omens, stuff like that. Observing wind, sea debris, and sea state. Objects that have been understood as having been used for navigation by measuring the angles between celestial objects were discovered in the Indus Valley site of Lothal. One thing we got to understand about the Indus Valley too, right? They say this is where most Vedic, or shall I say Hindu and Buddhist religions originate from. I say Vedic because this is where they originate from. They originate from that term, Vedic. Like a Vedic religion, that's what they had over there. And it was pretty much a mix of like Indo-Europeans and native Indians, like native Dravidians and stuff like that. But they saying that the objects that have been used, right, for understanding navigation were discovered in the Indus Valley, places that we could consider starts of civilization, right? But where do people in the Indus Valley get their civilization from, right? The Mayans, right? The Nagas, right? The Nagas and the Mayans, the ancient god Maya, right? Ancient America, man. Y'all know the drop. Y'all know what it do. The Norse are believed to have used a type of sun compass to locate true north. On cloudy days, the Vikings may have used cordierite, another mineral, right? Iolite is a magnesium iron, aluminum silicate. I don't know how to pronounce that. Iron is almost always present, and a solid solution exists between rich cordierite and rich seconite. So we find aluminum and magnesium in most of these minerals that they use for compasses and navigation, or some other birefringent crystal to determine the sun's direction and elevation from the polarization of daylight. Their astronomical knowledge was sufficient to let them use this information to determine their proper heading. The invention of the compass made it possible to determine the heading when the sky was overcast or foggy, and when landmarks were not in sight. This enabled mariners to navigate safely far from land, increasing sea trade and contributing to the age of discovery. So you see, prior to the compass, there were many different things people used to navigate. But most of these things, right, associate with geography, right, and weather, and the sun, right, water. If it's not water, it's wind, right? If it's not animals in nature, it's the sun, right? They're using the world around them because the world itself is a magnet. The world itself is a magnet. And this is why, even still till this day, you could use any GPS you want. A magnet will always magnet. Your phone could die, and if you got a magnet gonna always magnet, because it's activating off of the Earth's frequency, the Earth's electric frequency, right? Let's check this out. More drop on this Chinese stuff before we go into the real nitty gritty. Geomancy and Feng Shui, right? The compass was invented in China during the Han Dynasty, between the 2nd century BC and 1st century AD, where it was called the South Governor, or South Pointing Fish, as we just learned. The magnetic compass was not at first used for navigation, but for geomancy. Geomancy translates literally to earth divination, and the term was originally used to mean methods of divination that interpret geographic features, markings on the ground, or patterns formed by soil, rocks, or sand. Its definition has expanded over time to include any spiritual, let's check it out, any spiritual, where we at, metaphysical or pseudoscientific practice that is related to the earth. In recent times, the term has been applied to a wide range of other occult and fringe activities, including earth mysteries and the introduction of ley lines. Ley lines are straight alignments drawn between various historic structures, prehistoric sites, and prominent landmarks. Oh, okay. They use ley lines to plot out the land back in the days, right? In geomancy, earth divination, they used, right? That's what they use, ley lines to plot out the earth, to plot out the land, right? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this stuff is so interesting. I don't understand how people cannot find these things interesting. I don't know nothing about geomancy. This is new. I didn't know. This is new. This is new. This is new information for me, right? This is whoa. Like, I gotta run that back. Earth divination. It was used to mean methods of divination that interpret geographical features, markings on the ground, or patterns formed by soil, rocks, or sand. If y'all checked out my Mound Builders series, this probably could be connected to how those who partook in sun worship were drawing squares and circles on the ground in places where the sun aligned, right? I'm pretty sure there's some connection with this and that. 100% sure there's some type of connection. We see a geomancy tool right here with, it looks like dice on it. That looks like dice. A geomancy instrument in Egypt. This is interesting. Geomantic figures. This look like stuff blind people gotta touch. This stuff is interesting. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we do. What we do. This is why we do what we do, right? Earth divination, surveying the land, right? We knew what ley lines was, but who knew that they were using ley lines in prehistoric times to survey out the land, to plot out the land, to find out where they were going to put the temples and put the gardens and build homes and stuff like that. Like, look at all of this knowledge that history consists of. Or let's say mystery, right? They say earth mysteries. Earth mysteries. We could say that this is what mysteries consist of. It was one of the most popular forms of divination throughout Africa and Europe in pre-modern times, but was considered a forbidden practice in Renaissance Europe. In other regions and cultures, geomancy practice include Sikiti and Ifa, found in Africa, I Ching and Feng Shui, found in China, Kumalak, found in parts of Asia, and Vastu Shastra in India. Oh, so this stuff is real prehistoric. Like I said, this probably predates. This probably goes back as far as the origins of the Buddhist and Hindu religions. Like I said, Vedic religions, the Vedic peoples, right? But where do these peoples get their religions from? Right? Where do they get their religions from? Ancient America. Ancient America, without a doubt. I know there's some type of connection though, right? There gotta be. But let's go back to the stuff we was reading prior, right? So what did it say? Yeah, so we saw that they said that the magnetic compass was not at first used for navigation, but for geomancy and fortune telling by the Chinese. The earliest Chinese magnetic, a ley line from the Great Pyramids to New Orleans. Oh, kick it to me, sis. Kick me the info. Come on, we gotta tap in with that. That just goes to show there's some type of connection. But like I said, like the brother said in the video, Ain't nothing different from the temple of the sun and the pyramids and the mounds over here in America to the temple of Giza, right? The pyramid of Giza. There's nothing different. They all provided the same resources for the people, so to say. And they all had the same job, so to say. Right? So to say. But yeah, these early compasses were made with lodestone, right? So a form of mineral magnetite that is naturally occurring magnet and aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field. Lodestone aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field. So this natural resource, this natural mineral, already in the ground aligned with the Earth's magnetic field. So we know in prehistoric America, the use of copper tools was bussin', right? They were using tools and stone tools and metallurgy and all of that stuff. It was something that was bussin' in America. Cahokia, the mound builders, right? Pre-Columbian America, Mesoamerica, South America, right? Gold was discovered along the western coast from California all the way down to Chile. So we know these minerals were over here. As a matter of fact, proof of that, lodestone and other magnetic iron ores often occur in ingenious and metamorphic rocks found around the world. USA, Canada, India, Mexico, Romania, Italy, Finland, and Austria. Right? USA, Canada, Mexico, and India. Romania, Italy, Finland, and Austria. Right? Also in Australia, Canada, like we just said, France, Russia, Sweden, Brazil, China, Iran, Italy, South Africa, and the United States. So lodestone can be found all over, pretty much. Pretty much. But we got to understand, like, in order to mine minerals and stuff like that, you got to have at least knowledge that surpasses anything primitive. My bad, y'all. It's going down at work. I'm the supervisor there, so they texted me. But screw all that. You can find lodestone everywhere. And you got to have some type of knowledge that at least it surpasses that which can be primitive. So that means cavemen ain't out there mining lodestone. So let's just chalk this up as another black invention, shall we? Blessed to us by the Most High. Right? Because cavemen weren't out there mining no lodestone. Right? They wasn't mining no lodestone. So even if they say the origins is in China, the origins of the Manchurian is a caveman. Right? Anyway, people in ancient China discovered that if a lodestone was suspended so it could turn freely, it would always point towards the magnetic poles. Early compasses were used to choose areas suitable for building houses, growing crops, and to search for rare gems. So lodestone helped civilization prosper. It added on to evolution. Without lodestone, they wouldn't know where to build a crib. Pretty much, that's what they're saying. Check this out. Compasses were later adapted for navigation during the Song Dynasty in the 11th century. Based on Croster's and co-discovery of the Olmec hematite artifact in Mesoamerica, they discovered the Olmec hematite artifact, right? But we know the Olmecs, that's not the mother culture in America, right? That's not the mother culture. Those are invaders too, y'all. Check out my last drop. Those are invaders too. but they found the artifact dated to 1400, 1000 BC. I think that's older than what they told us in China, if I'm not mistaken. 220 BC to 220 AD. Oh yeah, definitely older. And they found that in Mesoamerica. Even though this radiocarbon dating can be off sometimes. John Carlson has hypothesized that the Olmec might have used the geomagnetic lodestone earlier than 1000 BOC for geomancy, a method of divination. Divination, if I'm pronouncing it right. So the Olmecs, I believe the entire Masonic theory is something that's probably built off geomancy. After understanding this more, this is it, to me, it sounds a lot like of astrology, similar to astrology, right? It sounds a lot like astrology. Like I said, we could even connect it to the grid built here in New York or big cities, right? To make navigation easier in big cities. Geomancy. Right, geomancy. It's a new term though. It's something that if you want, sis, we could talk about it on your podcast. Telling you, I'm here for it. Right, they saying which, if proven true, predates the Chinese use of magnetism for feng shui by a millennium. Predates. I know this is Wikipedia, y'all. I know this is Wikipedia, but we gonna pull up some facts, right? Carlson also, speculates that the Olmecs use similar artifacts as a directional device for astronomical or geomantic purposes, but does not suggest navigational usage. Like I said, we can connect geomancy to astrology, right? But astrology is navigation, right? Astrology is navigation. Like the sun and the moon. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm a believer of the sun worship stuff, but I mean, knowing if for everybody that knew that the sun sets in the east, right? Rises in the east and sets in the west, you would never be lost. You would always know where to go. If you knew that where you live, the sun rises, and wherever you traveled to, the sun sets, then you know how to get back home. You know how to get back home. There we go. I'm learning. You see, I'm catching on quick. I'm catching on real quick. But this is why I love doing this, because I learn just as much from y'all than I would know and learn on my own. Right? That's a real fact. That's a real fact. Shout you out, sis. You the GOAT. The artifact is part of a polished hematite bar with the groove at one end, possibly used for sighting. Carson claims that have been disputed by other scientific researchers who have suggested that the artifact is actually a constituent piece of decorative ornament and not a purposely built compass. Several other hematite or magnetic artifacts have been found at pre-Columbian archaeological sites in Mexico and in Guatemala. So they finding that stuff over here and in China, right? Which also just goes to prove, man, these invaders, bruh, they invaders, man. They steal everything, because it's not like you could dig a mineral up, right, and then migrate it to a whole new part of the world. Like, we got to understand these continents were connected at some point and broke up over time. These continents were connected. So these ores, these minerals, right, you could find these in many places, because a lot of these continents were all of the same land at some point, right? Gondwana, Laurasia, after this breakup, is the continents that we see today. People don't even know. We could do this all day. Sunderland. Right, this is what connected West Asia to East Asia and South Asia to North Asia. Right, land bridges, right? So people was migrating for sure. But I'm pretty sure whoever was here in America prior to these folks, because we know the Olmecs is invaders too. They not from here. They not from this block. They stole it from the people that are from here, are truly from here. The Olmecs stole their entire culture from the people that are from here and mixed it in with the culture that they came to the Americas with. The true Olmecs are the Sopak. The Zopak. Right? But yeah. A number of early cultures used lodestones so they could turn as magnetic compasses for navigation. Early mechanical compasses are referenced in written records of the Chinese, who began using it for navigation sometime before 1050, possibly as early as 850. At present, according to Kreutz, scholarly consensus is that Chinese invention using navigation predates the first European mention of a compass by 150 years. So they can't even sit here and say this is one of their inventions, right? Because it was used during a time where people were still worshiping the sun and the moon, right? Even though that's still something prevalent today, that's when they was really using it. Geomancy, right? Geomancy. But like I said, not going to sit here and keep bringing up Wikipedia facts, right? I'm going to bring y'all some articles, right? Documented articles. And this is from John B. Carlson, published in 1976. It's called Stardust, right? The Lodestone Compass, Chinese or Olmec primacy. There exists a unique Olmec 1000 BC or earlier artifact that may have been in the world's first known geomagnetic compass. The world's first known, the Olmec. At the March 13th meeting of National Capital, astronomers John B. Carlson, researcher in the Department of Physics and Astronomy, University of Maryland, will describe his archaeolo-astronomical studies of the Olmec culture and his analysis of such artifacts, which he reported in Science September 5th, 1975. Note that the meeting date for March only has been moved to the second Saturday. The Olmec developed the New World's first real civilization beginning around 1500 BC along Mexico's Gulf Coast, which is Cap. This is Cap, right? Because we already debunked this. The Olmec's dirty secret, right? Their dirty little secret, right? Remember, these dudes are invaders, right? After learning this, it changes everything about history. Because you got so many people now who be like, yep, the Olmecs are black. These are our ancestors. Olmecs this, Olmecs that, blah, 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 blah. But they wouldn't really understand the true origins, right? But look, check it out. They saying that they established the world's first real civilization, which is Cap. Analysis of the hematite artifact using Mossburger's spectroscopy, spinor magnetometry, examination of Olmec's ceremonial center alignments, and our knowledge of the Olmec culture has led to the speculative hypothesis that the artifact in question may have been part of the first known magnetic compass, probably used by the Olmecs for geomantic purposes. John B. Carlson received his BA in physics and mathematics from Oberlin College, Oberlin, Ohio in 1967, and his MS in astronomy from the University of Maryland in 1971. He expects his PhD in astronomy from Maryland in 1976. He has held teaching assistant and instructor positions at Maryland since 1967, where in 1975 he developed and taught a course in astronomy, a new interdiscipline. During the summers of the past several years, he has done solar and supernova research at Goddard Space Flight Center. His research experience and publications combine astronomy and anthropology. So this man, John B. Carlson, is basically an archaeologist, an anthropologist, and an astronomy scientist, or let's just say a scientist, yeah, because pronouncing this word is too much for me. I'm not gonna lie. Archaeoastronomy. There we go. But this man is notable for these things. You know, he partakes in that type of research, So we can only assume, right, that what he's saying right now is reputable, right? It holds some weight, right? But as we just see it in Wikipedia, and as we just saw when I showed y'all where Lodestone comes from, we have to make factual connections. It's found here in USA, in the Americas, right? In the Americas. So let's check it out. So what does it say? Researcher astronomer Dr. Thomas Van Flanderlen of the U.S. Naval Observatory presented his recently developed evidence of a missing planet at the February 7th meeting of National Capital Astronomers. Over 200 years ago, Titus discovered and bold publicized a simple series of numbers which gives the approximate distances of the planets from the Sun. Write 0, 3, 6, 12, 24. Add 4 and divide by 10. The Earth distance is 1, which defines the astronomical unit. The gap at 2.8 AU led to many searches for a missing planet, where many years on January 1st, 1801, Giuseppe Piazzi discovered Ceres, the first of many thousands of asteroids to be discovered, all having a mean solar distance of 2.8 AU, but in wildly different orbits. Speculation began that a planet either disintegrated or failed to form at 2.8 AU. As recently as a decade ago, a planet formation model of the hypothetical condensation nebula indicated that a large planet should have formed at 2.8 AU. The total mass of the asteroids, however, is less than 1,000th of that of the Earth. In 1971, Canadian astronomer Michael Ovenden published a new dynamical principle, which he calls the principle of least interaction, which postulates that the time average of all perturbations in an orbiting system must be a minimum. Tested on many systems such as planetary satellites and multiple star configurations, it is consistent with observations except for the solar system. The planets are not in minimum interaction equilibrium. Ovenden's hypothesis provides a dynamical basis for the Titus-Bode law. However, it indicates not only the solar distance of the planets, but also specifies that a planet of 90 Earth masses the size of Saturn must exist at 2.8 AU. When such a planet was inserted into the solar system calculations, the orbit of all the planets were found to be in equilibrium. Moreover, the calculations show that the planet must have existed until not more than 1.6 times 10 to the 7th power years ago. Right, these dudes get deep in science. They get real deep in it. And like within his study, right, they talk about how the Olmecs, right, were using the Lodestone to make the same calculations, right, of the sun and planets, right, just like how the Egyptians did, just like the Egyptians. So you really got to ask yourself, right, like I said, it just brings me back to the original question. I'll get into it most definitely. Thank you for putting me on. I'll definitely try to get into it. Gematria. Okay, that's another one, right? But it brings us back to the question: who and how and when were they using Lodestone? Not when, but how. Like how? They say the Olmecs were using it for geomancy, right, and astronomy, but not navigation, not up until late, right? And then they're saying that it predates the Chinese use of Lodestone to navigate, right? Where else in the world were they using Lodestone, right? Check this out, right? And this is why I said centers of energy, right? Cahokia, the mound builders, these temples, these pyramids, places where energy flows, people congregate, big cities, New York, California, well, Los Angeles, Chicago, right? Atlanta now. We know Atlanta is a big energy source center. Atlanta, think about where the name comes from. Atlanta, Atlantis. But look, check this out. 6 states seek lodestone that drew the Indians here. Right? They're looking for the lodestone that they think, quote unquote, brought the Indians to these states. Not realizing that or understanding that these folks been there. Right? Look, check this out. It says 6 other states will join Wisconsin in an attempt to solve one of the most baffling problems that has ever confronted state scientists. The states of Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, and New York want to know why Wisconsin in ancient days was the gathering ground for a large variety of Indian tribes than ever have been known to assemble in one place. Right? All of these states, if y'all check out the Mound Builder series, right? All of these states play a role in the mound building civilization, or just prehistoric America in general. Right? All of these states held the same weight that they hold today, you know, with the exception of Iowa, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Right? But like Detroit in Michigan, Indiana, Chicago and Illinois, and New York City held the same weight. Sources of lodestone, magnetic energy. Right? An expedition from the museum left Milwaukee Monday for Vernon County near La Crosse to spend 3 months in the field in an attempt to discover what it was that drew the Indians northward. Right? Brought them from the south. The South, the Indians, what drew them northward, the prosperity, the group of perspiring individuals. Even though giants and lots of other tribes, you know, were well versed with the use of stone tools and copper and whatever the case may be. But like I said in the mound building series, where you were raised at, hence being raised by water and agriculture, or being raised in a cave or a cliff, 9 times out of 10, that's what you based your life off of. Cliff living, cave dwelling. Right? Dwelling on land, agriculture, sea folks, mariners, expert sailors, and fishermen. Shit like that. Copper deposits are the reason for the northward migration, in the opinion of W.C. Mockern, anthropologist. Copper deposits, right? Copper deposits consists of multiple different minerals. Not just copper. You'll find multiple different minerals, though. Shout out to copper colored, though. Right? The expedition will make an archaeological survey of Vernon County and will excavate a campsite of Wisconsin's most ancient culture, known as the Hopewell culture. The Hopewell culture. We spoke about them several times before. Right? Several times before. Hopewell culture. Northeastern, Midwestern, Eastern woodlands from 100 BCE to 500 CE. So even these people, right, were using lodestone. Right? What drew all the Indians here? They got mounds over there too. Hopewell got mounds too. What drew the Indians there? The lodestone? They looking for the lodestone that brought the Indians there. The Hopewell culture. Accompanying Mr. Kern are Alton K. Fisher, assistant museum anthropologist, John A. Jeske, museum photographer, Town Miller of Fairwater, Wiss and Iron Otto, his assistant, Lou J. Dart, expert excavator, Montello, Earl Bell, field assistant. So they went with a group of people. They looking for the lodestone to excavate the lodestone. Right? Town L. Miller of Fairwater and Iron Otto of Ripon will be members of an expedition which will make excavations in Vernon County during the summer in the study of Indian lore. They saying it's Indian lore, aka mythology, right? What they called it? Germancy, astrology, lore, mythology. Right? Indian lore. 6 other states will work with Wisconsin in making the investigation. It was decided 2 weeks ago at a meeting in St. Louis of representatives of Midwestern museums and archaeological institutes. A concerted attempt will be made to find a beginning, middle, or end of the question of why Wisconsin has a larger variety of Indian culture than is found elsewhere. They're trying to figure out why. Why else, right, would there be a big culture in this area, right? People dwell in places where things are in abundance, or where they can get frequent resources. Like, they could always find resources. That's why people move to big cities, right? That's what they did it for back in the day, because jobs were abundant, right? Jobs. They did it for jobs, the big migration. And then prior to that, when we were living off the land, right, people were migrating to places where you could buy plots of land, like what they doing now, leaving the big cities. Right? But they trying to ask why all of these people migrated over there. Why it was so abundant. Right? Tribes apparently for decades stopped at camps in this section that were more or less permanent, left dusty imprints in mounds and campsites, and confused the records. They showed that they were superior people and capable of producing a fine art. The Milwaukee Museum plans to excavate the site of Wisconsin's most ancient culture, called the Hopewell culture, first discovered in Ohio. Right? The Milwaukee Museum. So now we know where all of these Hopewell ancient findings at, right there in the Milwaukee Museum. So that's where you got to go find those things. The camp, which will be established for 3 months, will be located on the edge of one of the ancient highways, the Mississippi, Fox, and Wisconsin River valleys. Oh, sorry, it was a pyramid. The Mississippi, Fox, and Wisconsin River valleys were ideal travel roads, according to Mr. Kern, and many villages sprang up along the routes. The earliest invaders of the state, said Mr. Kern, came from the east and southeast. About their habitations, we know little. They made good implements and had an extensive trade that included the Rocky Mountain District. Well, we learned about the Rocky Mountain District. Many tribes and different peoples dwelt in this area. Check out the Mound Builders book, man. Ancient Mound Builders, Ancient America. Yet the bones found in the Trempealeau district were so poorly preserved that they offered no clue to the manner of men that preceded the known Wisconsin tribes. The fact that they built mounds and placed some of their precious handmade articles within, presumably in reverence and tribute, indicates a religion of sorts. It is these mounds that they are to be excavated. Within the typical campsites, Mr. Kern hopes to find kitchen refuse, charred bones, and bits of pottery and other indications of how the Indians lived. Man, if you want more on this, check out my Mound Builder series, man. Check out the Mound Builder series, because we talking about all of the things that they find in here in America. Right? Left by those who built the mounds and by those who have dwelt and made homes around the mounds, right? Because not all the tribes who we have here in America are the creators of the mounds here in America. Some mounds, yes, but they've just added on to the mounds that had already existed here in America. We had pyramids here in America. Pyramids, whole pyramids, truncated pyramids here in America. But more so, on this migration and Lodestone theory, right, of how people traveled and stuff, it brought me back to the history of the ancient Choctaw, Chickasaw, and the Natchez. And in their migration out of Mexico in the 15 and 1600s, 1400s, they migrated from Mexico to Mississippi without a map. So the question is, how did they do that? Right? How did they migrate from Mexico to Mississippi, to Louisiana? Right? And here it says, from when I read this part, right, it said, when the appointed day arrived, it found them at the designated place, fully prepared and ready for the exodus under the chosen leadership of two brothers, Choctaw and Chickasaw. We went over this. Both equally renowned for their bravery and skill in war and their wisdom and prudence in council, who, as Moses and Aaron led the Jews in their exodus from Egypt, were led to lead them from a land of oppression to one of peace, prosperity, and happiness, right? Connecting this back to the Bible story, y'all. The evening before their departure, a Fabusa, we spoke about this. I told y'all the Fabusa was like a cross, a giant cross. Now, we don't know what it was built out of, but check out what they used it for, right? It was a pole. It was firmly set up in the ground at the center point of their encampment. By direction of their chief medicine man, their chief priest and prophet, whose wisdom in matters pertaining to things supernatural was unquestioned, and to whom, after many days fasting and supplication, after connecting with the Most High, the Great Spirit had revealed that the Fabusa would indicate on the following morning the direction they should march by its leaning. Right, when you're using a compass and you're trying to find a direction, what does it? It leans to the right or to the left, right? It goes with the axis, right? So this Fabusa that helped the people migrate out of the land, out of Mexico into America, directed them, right? It directed them by leaning. It indicated that the direction they must travel day by day until they reached and sought the desired haven. When on the following morn it would dare and then remain as erect as it had been placed the evening before. At the early dawn of the following morn, many solicitous eyes were turned to the silent but prophetic Fabusa. Right, and I just look at it like a compass, the Fabusa, right, that could have had some of this lodestone built within. Right, check this out. Look what it says. Without hesitation or delay, the mighty host began its line of march, the rising sun, and followed each day the morning directions given by the talismanic pole. They used the Fabusa, right, to travel out of Mexico and into America. Right? What was this Fabusa? Right? It leaned in the direction that they had to travel in. So just exactly what were these people dealing with? What were our ancestors dealing with? That's the question. That's why I love this, man. I love the research. Right? I love the research. I love it. Right? The origins of the compass. The history of the compass, man. Right? Some things to consider, some honorable mentions that we're going to talk about in later episodes, right? We're going to talk about the calendar stone, or the Piedra del Sol. Right, the Piedra del Sol, the Aztec sunstone. This was a calendar stone. As we know, the calendar, the 365, was created here in America by the ancients. Right, by the ancients. Their calendar, right? As we see, the civil year was not divided into weeks and months like those of today, but into periods of 20 days each. 18 of these periods made up the calendar year, which included 5 nothing days to bring the count correctly up to 365 days. Right? They had a different type of system, their calendar system, right? But they had a dating system. The Aztecs had a dating system. But this doesn't mean they were the creators of the dating system. Right? Multiple different peoples use the sun to help find some type of direction. They use the sun. Right? Another honorable mention, right? We got a list of multiple different pre-Columbian inventions and innovations, right? We got abstract art, Adobe, and we're not talking about the internet. We're talking about the material. Alcoholic beverages, almanacs, alpacas, right? Alpacas and camels, natives to this, to the land. American football, right? We did that one already though. We covered that one already though, man. Check out the old drops, right? Art, right? Look at these ley lines. Aqueducts, right? Waterways, irrigation systems. Aspirin, but they were using herbs, willow tree bark. Asymmetric warfare. Something that we gonna get into. Oh, I'm finding stuff myself. Atalal, spear thrower. Avocados. Rubber balls. We spoke about this one already in the history of the sports. Right? They say the Olmec produced rubber balls. Baby bottles. Beans. Board games. Bulletproof vests. They were wearing bulletproof vests back in the day. Bunk beds, as we just spoke about. Calendars. Canals. Canoes, right? But they were way bigger than what we see today. Chewing gum or chewing tobacco. Chocolate. Cacao, right? Organic cacao. The compass. Oh, look what we see here. The compass. Right? Again, this is Wikipedia though, but we just spoke about it. You know, it's so many things that point in the direction of these people being the originators. I won't say the Olmecs per se, but ancient America. Right? Corn, maize, cranberries, dams, another irrigation waterway, a system to control the water. Embalming, right? But they say, look, the Egyptians are known for mummification, which began around 6000 BCE, right? But the Chinchorro people have been known to have been embalming and mummifying their people since around 5000 BCE, right? Chinchorro, South America. We got the oldest mummies in South America. Let's add this one to the list, y'all. And so much more. We got so much more. Guinea pigs, hammocks, harpoons, hockey. We spoke about that one, right? In the older video, we spoke about that one. Go check it out. Right? Jerky, a kayak. Right? This is a kayak is a North American creation. Lacrosse, spoke about it. Like, look, llamas, Emperor's New Groove, Cusco, maple syrup, martial arts, mathematics. What y'all said about Egyptians? Mathematics. Who? The Olmec and the Maya. Mathematics. Metallurgy. Right? Told y'all. The use of lodestone and other minerals been a thing. Right? And so much more. And not the internet, for real though. Adobe, but not the internet, for real. Paintings, palaces, papaya, peanuts, peanut butter, man, peyote. We spoke about this one before. Popcorn, pot roast, pottery. The origins of pottery, right? We made pottery. We created pottery, and they always gonna mention the Maya, the Mayak. Oldest civilization. Could they be? Come on, man. Ancient America, the true old world, bro. That's why I love doing this, man. That's why I always say I love doing this, because it's new discoveries each and every time we go through this information. Newfound discoveries. Newfound discoveries. We just spoke about the origins of the magnetic compass. Yeah, originated here in ancient America. Lodestone found here in ancient America. Right? And if you check out the Mound Builder series, right? We see it, right? We see it. They talk about it. I'm talking about it. The different findings here in America, the multitudes of people, so many people migrating in and out of America. But they don't talk about this in history, though. They don't teach us this. They don't tell us about this. We don't know about this stuff, right? But that's why I'm going to do what I'm going to do every single time. Copper Color King going to do what he going to do every single time. We're going to talk about it, right? I wanted to deliver this one, right? Some quick, short content just to have a nice educational conversation. Ancient America, the true old world, right? You know, all of our bloods are mixed now, but our ancestors, a part of our ancestral lineage, you know, we're involved in these type of things and these type of discoveries, right? It's a beautiful blessing. It's a beautiful blessing. If I could travel back in time, oh boy, I'd love to see it, right? I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. I appreciate those who tuned in. Much love. I appreciate y'all. We back at it again next week. You know, I decided to drop this one today. I called out of work. Had to go for a follow-up doctor's appointment. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to do it the rest of the day. Might as well get on here and do some content, man. Do some preaching, right? Learn from my peers. And I can teach at the same time. It's fun. It's a win-win situation for me. Because there's nothing better than education inspiring, or education, inspiration, uplifting, right? We all got our vices. And mine is always going to be with pushing people, putting people on, putting myself on, right? Much love though, y'all. We're going to be back at it again, man. Friday, make sure y'all tap in. Coming with another one. We're going to finish one of these amazing books that I got here on this channel. I'm going to leave it to be a mystery. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about the Jewish Kavarov family, right? The first family to mix with the Aztec chief, right? Or shall I say, the family that carried the blood of the last Aztec chief. We're going to talk about that one. Stay tuned, man. Love y'all. Much love. We be back with it. Let's get it. We're going to try to hit for 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock p.m. if not 10. We're going to be on by 10. Just be on the lookout. 9 to 10. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for sure. Much love. Much love. Much love. I appreciate it. Let's do it.